In the history of the United States, few individuals have challenged government secrecy as boldly as Daniel Ellsberg. Once a trusted military analyst, Ellsberg would go on to become one of the most famous whistleblowers in modern history, risking life in prison to reveal the truth about the Vietnam War. Born in 1931, Ellsberg was not always a critic of the system. In fact, he began as a loyal Cold War strategist. He studied at Harvard, served in the Marine Corps, and later worked for the U.S. Department of Defense. Eventually, he joined the influential think tank RAND Corporation, a place deeply connected to military planning and policy. At the time, he strongly believed in America's role in containing communism. He wasn't an outsider. He was part of the system. But everything changed when he was sent to Vietnam. There, Ellsberg witnessed the war not as a theory, but as reality. He saw villages destroyed, civilians caught in the crossfire, and soldiers fighting a conflict that seemed to have no clear direction. But what disturbed him most was not just the violence. It was the contradiction. While observing the war firsthand, Ellsberg began to see a growing gap between what the U.S. government said publicly and what it knew privately. Reports he encountered revealed a harsh truth. American leaders had long believed the war was unwinnable. Yet they continued to escalate it. More troops, more bombing, more lives lost. This realization didn't just trouble him. It changed him. Back in the United States, Ellsberg gained access to a classified study later known as the Pentagon Papers. This massive, 7,000-page report documented decades of U.S. political and military involvement in Vietnam, from World War II through the late 1960s. What he read was deeply alarming. The documents showed that multiple administrations, from Harry S. Truman to Lyndon B. Johnson, had systematically misled the American public. Behind closed doors, officials admitted the war was failing. But in public, they spoke of progress. They expanded the conflict into neighboring countries like Cambodia and Laos, all while assuring citizens that victory was near. Ellsberg found himself facing a profound moral dilemma. Remain silent and protect national secrets, or expose the truth and risk everything. For months he struggled with that decision. He knew the consequences. Under the Espionage Act, leaking classified documents could mean life in prison. He could lose his freedom, his career, his reputation. But he also knew something else. That silence would make him complicit. So he chose to act. In 1969, Ellsberg began secretly photocopying the documents. Night after night. Page after page. Sometimes with the help of trusted friends. It was slow, dangerous, and irreversible. Finally, in 1971, he made his move. He leaked the documents to major newspapers, including the New York Times and the Washington Post. The reaction was immediate and explosive. As the papers began publishing excerpts, Americans were confronted with a shocking reality. Their government had not been fully honest about the war. Public trust began to crumble. Protests intensified, and pressure mounted. The administration of Richard Nixon responded quickly. They argued that publishing the documents threatened national security. They demanded the newspapers stop. The case escalated all the way to the Supreme Court, in the landmark decision New York Times Company v. United States. In a historic ruling, the court sided with the press, affirming the importance of freedom of speech and the public's right to know. It was a major victory for transparency. But for Ellsberg, the fight was far from over. He was charged under the Espionage Act and faced up to 115 years in prison. At the time, Henry Kissinger called him the most dangerous man in America. But behind the scenes, the Nixon administration took even more extreme steps. In an attempt to discredit him, a secret group known as the White House Plumbers broke into Ellsberg's psychiatrist's office, searching for information they could use against him. This abuse of power would later become part of the larger scandal known as the Watergate Scandal, and it would ultimately change everything. In 1973, Ellsberg's case collapsed. A judge dismissed all charges due to government misconduct. including illegal surveillance, wiretapping, and evidence tampering. Ellsberg walked free. But his actions had already reshaped history. The Pentagon Papers accelerated public opposition to the Vietnam War. They deepened skepticism toward government authority. And they set a powerful precedent that individuals could challenge secrecy in the name of truth. But Ellsberg didn't disappear after that moment. He spent the rest of his life speaking out. He warned about the dangers of nuclear weapons. He criticized unnecessary wars. And he supported future whistleblowers, people like Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning. To him, they were not traitors. They were individuals following their conscience. Still, his legacy remains debated. To some, he was a hero. To others, he was reckless. But perhaps the real significance of his actions lies not in labels, but in the questions he left behind. Should loyalty to government outweigh loyalty to truth? When does secrecy become deception? And what is the true cost of telling the truth? Daniel Ellsberg passed away in 2023. But his legacy continues to shape conversations about war, secrecy, and accountability. Because in the end, he was not just a leaker of secrets. He was a man who believed that the public deserved to know the truth, even if it came at a great personal cost. And perhaps that is his greatest message. That democracy does not survive on silence. It survives on courage. The courage to question. The courage to speak. And when necessary, the courage to stand alone. If you want to understand how history is unfolding before our eyes, don't miss what comes next. Revisit Xfinity Evolution for deeper insights and powerful stories. Stay informed, stay curious, and join us again on Xfinity Evolution, where the world's biggest events come into focus.